Okay, we are live on today's Sister to Sister Conversations. My name is Stella, and it is a pleasure to have all of you with us. We are live on YouTube and Facebook, and we're trying out for the first time today on TikTok. So let's invite other people to join us right now as we kick off our conversation today. Let's see. All right. So today I have some amazing guests here, and I'm really excited for this conversation. So I'm going to have my guests begin to introduce themselves. I think Danielle, this is going to be your first time here. Eunice has been here before. So we'll let you go first, and then Eunice will introduce herself. So the floor is open for you, Danielle.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for having me, Stella. So I am Danielle Amoako. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist. I am based in Pennsylvania, but I am licensed in Florida, Delaware, and Rhode Island, where I'm originally from. And I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us. All right, Eunice, can you do a bit intro of yourself as well?
Okay, so I'm Eunice Panford Crano. I'm a counseling psychologist by profession, and I am in Ghana. And I think I've been here before, so I'm excited. Today's topic is exciting.
Awesome. All right. So before we get into all of our questions, let's make sure we are inviting and sharing the link on YouTube and Facebook to others to join us. Danielle, let's hear a little bit about you. We don't mind if you want to spill all the beans about who you are and your work, and your all ears, who you are, your work, and all that fun stuff.
So, I can share a little bit about the fact that I just started a practice. I've been a therapist since graduating in 2021, so about 4 years now. But I recently just started my own practice in April of 2025. It's called Well Rooted Therapy. And I just felt led to take that step. And so I went transitioned from a group practice to my own business. And so far, so good. I grew up in Rhode Island, though. I was raised in Rhode Island, and I absolutely loved growing up there. I just transitioned to PA for graduate school, and that's been wonderful. And then I started my career there, so I was like, I might as well stay. But yeah, I guess that's about all that I can think of right now. Is there anything else in particular you want to know?
Well, I think you missed one point out, which I think is crucial because that's where we met. So,
Oh, yes, 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 yes. I met Stella in ministry school in Redding, California. That's where we connected, and that was from 2017 to 2019. That I was there. Great experience. I think it really helped me to grow in my identity in God and really just understand who I am. So it was a pivotal moment in my growth, and I'm so excited that I was able to be part of that experience and then meet Stella.
all right, that's awesome. I think that's great because, when somebody comes to your practice, they know what they're getting, especially if they believe in God, right? Like you're
Mhm.
not just giving them what you've read in books, but you're also like Holy Spirit led and a Christian. So I think if I'm looking for somebody to be a therapist for my family, for my marriage, for my life, I would choose or opt for somebody like you rather than going to somebody that does not believe in God. So I think that's
Yes, yes. Which I will add that I don't advertise necessarily that I'm a
Christian.
Christian
Yeah,
because
shouldn't be
I
this way.
felt led to
Hmm.
not go that route.
Hmm.
And so I would say most of my clientele isn't,
Hmm.
but that's still ministry. I,
Exactly. Most
you
of your
know,
clientele is not supposed to, but as
yeah,
they interact with you, they'll get the God in you. So that's excellent.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly, exactly.
that's awesome. That's great. All right, Eunice, tell us a little bit about your work as a um, counseling psychologist, what areas. Yeah, just something fun.
Okay, so I am a counseling psychologist, as you said, but I usually do children and adolescents. I love interacting with them. It brings the child in me. Usually, I get to learn the trends. So Currently, for the last 2 years, I've been learning new things. I've been introduced to new ways. In fact, social media, I got to know that now if you want to really interact, you don't use the WhatsApp and the rest is for older people like us. So you use the Snapchat, you use TikTok and other ones. I didn't even know that I didn't even know that WhatsApp was for old people. So they made me know that I was old. Yes. And there are lots of things that they teach me. So I get to learn every day. And I don't think that I want to do any other group than children and adolescents.
Okay. All right. That's interesting. I mean, I have a lot of questions to ask you about that. But anyways, I'll let that go. All right. So let's kick off here with our questions. I usually like to start off with definitions. So we're looking at relationships and we're looking at love and the
Okay.
psychology of it. So let's start with it. What is psychology? As we ask the experts. All right.
I think in its most simple form, it's just a study of the mind and behavior. And we're just looking at how we interact daily, how you're connecting with people, how you're thinking, breaking all of that down and just studying that.
Okay. All right, that's great. Do you have anything else to add or subtract from that, Eunice?
Yes, I think to add to that, I think that it has to do with the study of how we think and how that translates into how we feel and how that also influences our behavior because these three are usually linked. How you think influences how you feel about a situation or everything, and also that influences how you act or behave. So these three are linked. So that's basically psychology. So our whole being is psychology.
Okay, good. All right, so let's say, like, I've not, of course, I haven't studied what you guys have studied, and I don't know a whole lot about that. What,
Okay.
it might sound very foreign to me when you guys start talking about psychology and how I think and how I feel. Like, how is this practical? How is this practical? What makes psychology practical to everyday life? To the
Okay,
point that you
psychology.
guys build a career out of it. Like, how practical is this?
Okay, it is practical in the sense that usually when anything happens, first is your thoughts, what you think about a situation. So someone tells you that, okay, I like you. I know I'm jumping the gun, but someone tells you I like you. First, you think about it. Okay, what do you think about this person? How
Mm,
does that make you feel? Now, when you interpret what you think and how that makes you feel, now you begin to act a certain way towards that person. Usually, everything that happens in our lives revolves around that. If I think that, okay, what do I think about Stella? Do I think that Stella likes me?
mm,
Now, thinking about it, if I think that Stella likes me, how does that make me feel? Now, I begin to feel positive around Stella. Now, feeling positive around Stella begins to affect how I behave around Stella. Now, if I think that you don't like me, okay, whenever I see you, my emotions begin to change.
Mm,
I frown. Okay, I frown. Now I begin to feel that, okay, even when you're talking to someone, I begin to feel that you're talking about me.
mm,
Now my behavior around you changes.
mm,
So it affects everything that we do in everyday life, even the way we think about the work that we do. If
mm,
I feel that, oh, my job is too stressful, I think about it. Why did I even sign up for this job? Now I begin to feel that way towards that job, even when I have to go to work. Oh God, this thing is not something I want to do. Now I wake up in the morning, I become sluggish. I don't want to even do this again. So it affects every aspect of us. It's so practical.
mm.
And let me shift a bit into the Bible. Okay. We say that the body, you see, man was created. We are made up of the mind, soul, and spirit. Okay, it is practical. Now, where this I am the psyche, that's where the seat of our emotions are. Okay, that's where our emotions sit. Now we were made with emotions, everything around us. If you are born and you don't show certain kind of emotions, now we think that there's something wrong with you. When a baby is born, the baby has to cry. you are into the medical field, Dr. Stella. So when a baby is born and the baby doesn't even let out the first cry, you feel that, oh, there's something wrong. So they'll start pinching, doing all other things to make the baby let out that emotion, because that's how we know that, oh, the baby has, the senses are working because it's part of us. So it is so practical. Now we begin to monitor other aspects of the baby. The baby is supposed to do certain things. Okay, the baby is now supposed to reach out for the breast. In fact, look for the nipple. Where's okay? That's all part of it.
Right.
These are all aspects of behavior. That's psychology. So it's more practical than we think. Thank you.
Awesome. That's great. Danielle, what do you have to add to that?
You know what? I don't have much to add to that. I think Eunice did a wonderful job explaining. Like, I really love how you incorporated the body, soul, and spirit. And I really love how you gave those examples of like, hey, when we're born, we have to cry. That's a sign, that senses are working and things are in alignment. So it is in every element of our lives. Like it's demonstrated. So yeah, I really appreciate the examples you gave.
That's great. All right. Let's look at love since we have looked at a little bit of psychology and then we kind of love. Do we have a definition for it? I don't know. I guess
Hmm.
there's so many definitions for it. But like from a is there a different definition of love from a psychological point, or is it just general? I don't know. You guys tell me. Not really.
No, I think love is general. It's
Okay.
universal.
Yeah.
All right. So when you, as a psychologist, as a therapist, psychologist, think about love, what comes to mind?
Mm.
We, the general
Hmm.
people, we think about, laughter, happiness, butterflies, all that stuff. But what when you guys think about love in your everyday work, and I'm pretty sure you see it, evidence in many different ways with different cases that you look at. What does that usually entail? You can, incorporate other people's experiences or what you've found so far.
Hmm.
This is a good question. I think first off, I'll say this: it's not easily defined.
Right.
Um, I think it has various meanings for various people depending on your experience. Um, and so that's the thing about love. When we're thinking about biblical, we're thinking God is love.
Hmm.
He is the foundation. He is the definition of what it means. We think about 1 Corinthians 13, where it breaks it down. There's clarity around what it is. But when I'm thinking about it just in general, like you were sharing butterflies, things like, I'm thinking just like, I think it's everything you shared. But I also think more than that, it's alignment.
Mm.
It is connection. It is commitment. It is consistency. It is intentionality. Uh, all of those things. It's your ability to express yourself, like actually feel safe, to have fun together, feel known by the person. Like when I'm thinking about like being known by someone, I feel that they love me and I love them. Like I'm trying to know them. I'm trying to understand them. Um, so I think it's all of those things and probably a lot more.
Okay. That's great. And yeah, that's great because I think you really brought up the solid things which we hear now is like the foundations of love, but usually like the commitment, the intentionality part. That's awesome. Thanks for sharing. All right, Eunice, do you have anything to add to that?
No, she said a lot, but I want to say that, you see, love is not just a psychological principle, but it's also a basic necessity. If you look at Abraham Maslow's theory of needs,
Mm-hmm.
it forms one of the core
Yeah.
needs of a human.
Mm.
When you take when you take the food, whatever, the basic needs, it forms part of the basic needs. That means that every human being needs love in order to thrive. You cannot thrive without love. Now, let's go to the first 5 years of a human being. Now, when a person is born, the first 5 years are the core years. Everything that happens in those 5 years affects the later years of that person's life. Now, if that first 5 years, the person doesn't experience the love and attachment, it affects every aspect of the person's life. Now, a lot of the issues that, or maybe a lot of the cases that I handle, if you go deep into it, these years, early years, all the things that happened affects them. That is why I'm saying that love is not just a psychological term, but also it's a basic need.
Mm.
And it's a basic necessity. That is why if you look at love, it is universal. There's no way that they'll say, oh, when you go to this country, love is different. It's a language that is common to everybody. We all understand love. We all feel the butterflies. Or maybe some people don't. I don't know how butterflies feel. Well, maybe. But we all feel it. And if you ask anybody to describe love to you, what they feel is the same thing. Maybe the words might be different, but the feelings would all be the same. Thank you. So that's what I wanted to add.
That's good.
Okay, that's awesome. All right, great. So I think Danielle mentioned the love of God. So let's go there since we are all believers. Let's look at the foundation of love from a biblical point of view.
Okay.
How does that belief or understanding that there is a God, there is someone who loves me, like that very foundation, how have you guys seen it being expressed out or the lack of it being expressed out in the cases that you usually see? I think this is quite a broad question, so you guys can take it from
Yeah.
anywhere. You're
Yeah.
looking at
Yeah.
the foundation and how you see it woven into the work that you do.
I will say this with the foundation of knowing, hey, there's a God. I'm loved by this God, which this is even just for believers. I think even some believers struggle with this idea, but I was created, all of that. If you believe that, there's a level of security
Mm,
that you'll have that someone that doesn't have that understanding may not have. Okay. Because maybe they're operating from a place of I have to earn something. If you're already functioning from a place of I'm loved, it's totally different than I have to get to a place of being loved. Or like, even if you have family that loves you, maybe in a romantic connection, you're feeling this sense of like, I have to earn, or
mm,
friendship, I have to earn. I
mm,
can't just have access to this thing. I have to do things in order to get what I feel that I need. Like what Eunice, you said, it's a need. Um, Whereas if you process it from this place of like, oh no, I am loved, there's a foundation of security there where you're like a need is being met that you're not working to try to get that need met. You
mm.
already function from the place of the need is met, which is very, very different. So I would say that that's something I've noticed in my work with clients.
One thing you said that really stood out to me is security. So, as much as we don't think about security in terms of love, based on what
Mhm.
you just said, I'm beginning to think that's like the basic foundation of love to feel secure. Is that it? Okay. All right. That's great. I'm learning something new. All right. Eunice, what do you have to say with regards to that?
Yeah, yes, to add to that, I think you see, and that security is very important. So, when you feel secure, when you feel that someone loves you, it gives you the confidence to go about your normal duties without feeling alone. Usually, in my line of work, you see, one of the things that I see is that when people feel loved, let me use God's love, for example, where usually what works for me when I'm doing therapy is to mimic God's kind of love towards my client. One, not judgmental. I know that, okay, what you did, maybe you might have contributed to the consequences of whatever you're going through. Yes, you didn't do something right. But then we are at where we are now. This is not the time for me to start apportioning blame. You have reached out. I'm supposed to help you. That is God's love. Whenever you reach out to Him, He helps you without reminding you of the sins that you have committed. And that does the magic. So that non-judgmental attitude towards client is the kind of love. Sometimes they just need someone to listen to them. It is not about offering solutions, but that person who is there to listen, no matter how much they feel that they are talking too much or they are not making sense, but that person is present. That person just listens. Pour out your heart to me. That is what they need. And that is love. And this is one of the things that people are crying for. People are reaching out for. People are saying, then I'm not getting this. Sometimes people come, I'm not even getting this in my partner. And this is the basics of love. So that's what I would add to what Danielle said.
All right, that's great. I don't know if I should say this. No, I mean, no, because I'm just thinking, like the God kind of love, non-judgmental. Like you guys put yourself in a position where your brain is set that way in the course of your work. But in the everyday course of work, as soon as our eyes are alive, as soon as our eyes see and observe, we quickly make judgments, whether we are
Yeah.
yeah, whether we are aware or not. That's why I'm like shit, because so like we are judgmental all the time. So just I'm just thinking like how do we even live in that way? But I do understand, because when you get into that work scope, you know what you're doing. But it's just really interesting because we are creatures of habit and judges. We judge all the time. But to be able to embody that non-judgmental love, that definitely requires the grace of God. Now let's look at some relationships and love, since we are in the Bible right now. The relationship between Mary and Joseph, the kind of love that they have or had. As a psychologist, what does this look like, or what category? I don't know your categories and what's not, but how would you explain the kind of love that existed between these two?
Well, Mary and Joseph, I think that was a tough one, because that was love that was tested by, let me say, uncertainty. Where I think if it happened in our modern day, we would all have even advised Joseph that Mary might have done something and would have been lying about it, because how then do you come to tell me the story?
Right.
Okay. But also you could also look at someone who believed and had a relationship with God, who believed that, okay, I had made the right choice, and then believed that, okay, maybe that I believe had faith and said, okay, this is a love that has been tested, or it's going through some tests and it had to stand. I don't know if you get what I'm saying. Because this was people will talk, definitely. I let me share this. Let me share this example where I had a friend who got married, and I think the wedding night she got pregnant. She took seed. So when it started showing, when I saw her and we had a conversation, the first thing she said was, "Oh, it happened on the wedding night." I said, "I haven't judged you." She said, "People started calculating immediately. It started showing." Yes,
Yeah.
we are in Ghana. I'm in Ghana, so yes, it's normal.
It's a
Oh
real
yes,
thing.
people started calculating. Okay, that means that are you sure you didn't get pregnant before you got married? You know, and it's part of human nature. So imagine that you're going to get married to someone and then you realize that, oh, the person is showing signs. You know that you've not done anything. Nothing, oh, nothing. And the person comes to tell you that, oh, okay, I haven't also done anything, is the Holy Spirit. Now, how do you believe this?
Right.
Yes, how do you believe this? It takes a lot to believe that this person is telling the truth. It takes a lot to still trust the person regardless. Even there are times that maybe you've received a prophecy about something and you're still doubting. Are you sure you didn't go and tell this man something to come and tell me? Like you
Right.
have all these doubts in your mind. So it took a lot for Joseph to still go ahead and say that, okay, I'll still marry you regardless. And this shows that it was a love that was tested by uncertainty, but it was still sustained by faith, because they knew that they had a covenant and God had told them something. Because there are times that you have prayed about maybe a person. Both of you have gone to God in prayer. You have received a word and something happens. And then you begin to question, did I really pray about this? Or did we really hear from God? Or was our minds because we're in love? So that was their faith was tested, but they still stood their ground. I don't know if that was still work in our day. I don't know. No, I'm being real here. I don't know
Yeah,
if that
I'm
was
pretty
still
sure
work.
it wouldn't work. That's why God made it happen when it happened. I
Yeah.
mean, no,
But it
seriously,
can
like,
also work. It can also work because
yeah.
I have had
I mean, it could do
conversations with
some.
people who have been hit very hard and they still held on to each other and went ahead to get married and they are thriving.
Mm,
Yeah,
Yes, and these are modern stories, not ancient ones.
yeah,
mm,
but
mm,
So it
mm,
can
probably
still work.
wasn't a baby and that kind of stuff, Like,
mm.
anyways, what I'm getting from what you're saying is that it's kind of like it was a really secure kind of love, and what I'm also
Yes,
getting is
it
like
was.
faith played a very critical
Yeah,
role in that kind of
yes.
love.
Because he was tested. He was tested. It's easy for a woman in our society, for a woman to accept that, okay, a man has gone out, a man has gotten someone pregnant. But it's very hard for a man to accept that, okay, the woman I want to get married to is pregnant. Trust me, no man would want to accept that.
Yeah,
Yes. But
yeah,
then he had to.
yeah, yeah. I
And
think
you
that
could see that when you read the account, I think that for me, for that, I think that he was a good man because he wanted to let her go secretly
yeah.
without making noise about it. You get it? That was something that came to mind. That part made me know that he was human after all. Because
Mhm.
if not, I would have thought that, oh no, maybe he had some supernatural spirits within
Abilities.
him. But yes, but that made me know that he was human. He could feel it. He could feel the betrayal because if we know that, okay, she didn't sleep around, but he could feel the betrayal at a point.
Yeah, it's that whole. It's just really interesting because I mean, it makes me think about the correlation with the mind and love, right? Because the
Mm-hmm,
Bible
mm-hmm.
said he thought about it. He only thought about it.
Yes,
And
yes, but he
then
didn't execute.
and then so that also means like what you guys have already said, what we think can affect what how we love somebody or how we treat them because before
Exactly.
he found out he just thought about it. It's like, okay, I'm gonna put her away.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, their relationship looks like a very secure relationship. Another thing that jumps out to me though from their story is that it wasn't sexual. So like
No, no,
that
at
means
all.
love is not all sexual. I mean,
No,
like the whole nine
no,
months
no,
he was married to her
no,
and
no, no.
nothing. That's just
Mm.
that's why I'm
But
saying
if it
this.
was sexual, he could have thought that it was him because you've already.
No, I mean like afterwards.
Mm,
No, no, no,
After he
no.
found that she was pregnant, there was not any,
mhm.
the whole 9 months being married to I don't know if they have
I
those
wish I
kind of
could
things.
meet him and ask him how he did it. I'm sure it's not possible.
But anyways, that's interesting. That's a lot to chew there, but we don't want to spend all our time on that. Let's look at the relationship between Mary and Elizabeth. I think that's also like a love
Yeah.
relationship in very interesting dynamics, which I don't think I mean I think it can still happen these days or it does happen, but what do you guys think about that? That since we're looking at the psychology of relationships, the relationship between Mary and Elizabeth.
Mm. Well, when I think about Mary and Elizabeth, I think about the fact that their shared experience kept them connected. So
Yeah.
Mary's pregnant with Jesus, Elizabeth's pregnant with John the Baptist, which that is miraculous in and of itself. How Elizabeth was pregnant. Um, but I think when Mary came to visit Elizabeth, or I recall the story correctly, John leaped in her belly. Like the Holy Spirit, it said the Holy Spirit filled John. So
Right.
it was like they had this shared, like, and as soon as they connected, like I think Elizabeth started to just kind of like prophesy. Um, so I feel like that shared connection really brought them together. And it just makes me think about how love binds.
Mm,
how love unites.
mm,
Because I'm assuming they had their family, so I'm assuming there was connection already. But that situation just, it took it to another level because
mm.
also what they were experiencing, no one, no one else was experiencing what they
Right.
were experiencing. So it's like that brought them close.
Mm,
So that's what I think about when I think about their connection.
that's great. That's awesome. I'm just thinking, yeah, that's really. I mean, the fact that they bonded to the point that their kids in their stomach were bonding, like, I
Yeah.
mean, that's pretty radical. That's
Mm.
awesome. And the interesting thing is their age did not become, I mean, because when
Mm.
you think about it, this day and age, I think maybe there's some sort of burden in our age with the age gap with, older women and young women because of technology and all of that. But I think even back then, that was like a really big gap, like a teenager and a postmenopausal woman, bonding together over pregnancy.
Yeah.
Very interesting there. What do you have to add to that, Eunice?
Well, I think that their bond also encouraged each other because it gave them some form of affirmation and encouragement. And they celebrated I like the fact that they celebrated each other because it wasn't just okay because you're pregnant but it was more of they were celebrating each other, they were there for each other, encouraging each other, and that was what did it for them because they were and now for now what I usually see is that you could see maybe people in the same situation, maybe praying about a particular issue or looking up to God for something. One person receives an answer, then immediately the other starts getting jealous, or the other person starts asking questions. But when you look at these two, nothing like that happened.
Mm,
These two, they understood each other's season, they understood each other's purpose, they understood each other's connection, and then they stood by each other, celebrated each other, and then supported each other through it, and that was love. As
Mhm.
women, that was love, and I
Mhm.
think that was a special connection which I love.
Yeah.
yeah.
And I'll just add too, how intentional of God. Because, like, that is a very lonely position to be in for both of them.
Mm.
Right.
Yeah, yeah,
Postmenopausal teenager,
yeah,
that was both scandalous.
yeah.
Like,
Yes,
really a problem. So the fact that he had them have this moment together at the same exact time, like that is such a precious thing to think, and that just speaks again to intentionality, and that
yeah,
speaks to like God's heart. The fact that he had it happen at the exact same time. That says
yeah,
a lot, a lot, and it tells a lot about community and the fact
Right.
that we
yeah.
need people,
People, yeah. The right people.
the right
That,
people.
The
yeah.
right people, the
Yeah.
right people.
Because you can tell there was no judgment, like,
No.
because as soon as Mary found out she was pregnant, that's when she went to hide for 3 months. So there wasn't any judgment, there wasn't any, just love, just community, just friendship,
Hmm. Hmm.
just blessing each other. And I think, I don't know, do you guys think that is kind of missing in our time and a day? I mean, even if we disregard the age gap, do you think we have there is a lot more friendships that are secure that are do we find that in our time and age, or is that something lacking? And if there is, what is the psychological point of view for what that missing gap might be?
Well, I think that okay, so I've seen some friendships which are secure and others that are lacking. So I would be in between and when it comes to this because I've seen some people who they have a support system, they go all out for them, they do everything for them. But also the other aspect is that now we sometimes get too busy with life. I see a lot of us get very busy. We're trying to make it in life. We're trying to like we get busy with everyday tasks, like things that we have to do, that sometimes it's as if the world is moving too fast. So sometimes we forget to check in with others. We forget to reach out to others. We forget to check up on others. So that is what I am seeing But maybe that's not intentional. I don't think that people are intentionally doing that. But one thing that I've learned is that sometimes you have to intentionally take a break and check up on others. Intentionally take a break and check up on others. Intentionally take a break and reach out to people, because you might never know what they are going through.
Mm.
I think about a month ago, I had someone reach out to me, and it was nice to hear from the person, and for the person to say that, okay, I was just saying a prayer and the Holy Spirit said I should reach out to you. And in my mind, I was like, oh, the Holy Spirit remembers me.
Mm,
It's just soothing to hear that the Holy Spirit said, call her.
mm,
Okay. And I feel that sometimes we get too busy, so we forget these things. I know that there are people that, okay, when they can easily call you and then you reach out to them. But one thing that I'm trying to do recently is to try at least maybe 30 minutes in a day, take a break, look through my call log. Who can I reach out to? Who can I call? Just check up on the person, send a message. How are you doing? How is it going? That's enough. The person feels seen, the person feels heard, and it's okay. And
mm.
usually the feedback I get, it's good. It's a good feedback that they feel, oh, thank you so much. I'm doing well. Yes. So these friendships exist, but sometimes we get caught up with life. For instance, Stella, you're way
Are you
across.
just making excuses? You knew I was gonna come
I
for you.
I knew
You
you were
knew
gonna ask
that.
me
You knew
that.
I wasn't gonna let this woman slide.
No,
I'm just kidding. Keep going.
exactly. So you see, we are so much apart that even the time zones are we are in different time zones.
Right.
So sometimes it gets so hard to have our normal conversations, to call to talk for hours. But I know you're doing well, right? You're doing all right. I'll do better. I'll check up on you.
What do you have to add to that, Danielle?
I agree. I think the busyness of life, it
Yeah.
really has gotten in the way for a lot of people. I think just distraction, honestly. I also think there's a focus on self more than
Hmm.
like ever before in our generation, which I could see the benefits, but I also see negatives.
Mm.
Yes.
And I think that when you get wrapped up in yourself, it's really hard to like focus on others and like think about how you can like be there for other people and support them, etc. Um, and the thing is, we don't understand, like going back to what you said, Eunice, it's a need. We're talking about
Hmm.
connection on the basic level of like food and water. Like we all need this. And so
Hmm.
like we actually can't just heal ourselves. We
Yeah.
do need people to heal and grow and, all of the things. So I do think it's something that I do think people have, deep connection. And I do think that's there, but I think it's becoming harder and harder to maintain
Yeah.
and harder to prioritize because we're getting wrapped up. And I think that is something that needs to be addressed on a deeper level,
Mhm.
just in general when we're, talking to clients, friends, because, and I love that you look at your call log every now and then and you're like, okay, who have I not checked in on? Because it is so important to prioritize that because we do need it.
Mhm.
Awesome. That's good. Yeah, the distraction is really a big thing because I mean, you can sit and scroll for hours and yeah, and be distracted. So, let's look at the John the Baptist Jesus relationship. I think that one is an interesting one too.
Mm,
Mm.
I mean, obviously, John was older. John started his ministry before Jesus, but the whole thing is just, I think it's interesting, starting from how they were trying to compare him to Jesus. And I think that's a big thing in relationships. Because this
mm,
is like cousins, right?
Yeah.
They're cousins. I mean, I don't know. I think, I don't know about you, Danielle, but because you grew up here,
mhm.
but growing up in Ghana, you did get a lot of comparisons. I mean, if not even among your siblings, that neighbor's child and that, like, yeah. So it's a real thing. And I think it can rob relationships of like their very essence, what they're supposed to be. So I don't know from a psychological point, what are you guys? What are your views with regards to that relationship between John the Baptist and Jesus? or general views about that kind of relationship that they had. Yeah.
Yeah. This is what I'm thinking about right now. I haven't thought this fully through, but this is what comes to mind. Even just in reference to what you were saying about your experience in Ghana. I grew up, my parents are Ghanaian, so it is they're all the same, whether they move abroad or they stay. Um, so, and I'm the second oldest, so I was, just
Oh, okay.
compared to my sister often. But when I think about the dynamic between John the Baptist and Jesus, I think about how comparison plays out even in our experience currently. And I think something that I've heard often is like comparison is a thief of joy. And I believe that to be true. But something I'm thinking about too, and someone put it this way, like when we're looking to someone and we're like, oh, I really appreciate what is on their life. This is actually an opportunity to really get a better understanding of what you're after for like or what you want to pursue or goals that you have versus like you're looking at that person, you're thinking, oh, I want to be them. It's like I really appreciate what's on their life. There's something about what's on their life that I'm drawn to. What does this say about me? And you can use it for as information for you then to so like they were compared often, but John knew who he was. He knew his
Mhm.
role, and it didn't matter if people compared them. He knew who Jesus was.
Mm.
And so
Exactly.
as soon as I think it just affirmed who he was is basically what I'm trying to say. It didn't change it didn't make him want to be him. It just
Mhm.
confirmed this is who I am.
Mm.
Okay. So I do think that it can be that, if we're able to like and it honestly helped them again to once they both knew their roles, that's what also connected them. Once
Mm.
they both knew what their role was. And when you think about their interaction where the Holy Spirit comes in like a dove on Jesus and
Mhm.
like it just confirms immediately for John everything that he's been doing, everything he's been called to, it all made sense in that moment
Mm.
as witnessing it happening right before his eyes, the confirmation of who Jesus is. So I'm like, I think it could be that. It could be just I've heard this about this person, I heard this about this person, but it's brought me to my realization of who I am and what my role is and the space that I occupy. It's not making me covet what they
Mm.
have, just making me understand who I am.
It's
So I
so
feel like that is what the connection between Jesus and John the Baptist. When I think of that, that's what comes to mind.
That's really, really good. So, like using comparison to our benefit, not just wanting to be them, but what makes them that draws us, so that that can actually reinforce who we are. That's awesome. That's great. What do you have to add to that, Eunice, or anything you want to take out of
Yes.
it?
Yes. I think that also there's one thing that I see as humility. Well, we knew that, okay, Jesus was the Son of God. He had come to the earth, exactly. But you could see humility on both parts, okay?
Yes.
And usually I see that in some relationships. The man wants to show that, okay, I'm the head of the family. He will just throw it in your face all the time. Respects me, I'm the head. But that's not it. That's not the way to go. There's a way that you can communicate. Sometimes, even when you're dealing with someone, okay, maybe the person is your boss, whatever he is, he wants to throw it into your face. That's not how Jesus exhibited that. He knew who he was, he knew his purpose. John had his own. John wasn't disrespectful or anything.
Mm.
But that wasn't the time for Jesus to show him that, okay, you know what? You're powerful and everything, but I'm more powerful. I'm the Son of God. Like, power past power. Like, that was it. But he never did any of those
Right.
things.
Yeah.
He was also humble in his own way.
Mhm. Mhm.
They respected each other's boundaries. They respected each other's ministry. They knew it wasn't now that, okay, maybe when John is ministering, then Jesus goes there and tries to teach John how to minister to the people, how to do the
I'll
healing,
do it
how
in
to reach
heaven.
out. Like, let me show you, like this, how you say it like this. No, that didn't happen there.
Right.
They respected each other, and that's how they thrived there.
That's good.
That's
So
really
that's what I
good.
want to add.
That's awesome. Thank you for that. All right. Now let's start branching into our own society and lives. Before we leave the whole biblical analysis, let's look at the first miracle that Jesus did. Since we are talking about psychology of love and relationships, why do you think, whether from a Christian point of view, psychological, why do you think it was so necessary that Jesus did a first miracle at a wedding where he was invited to, where his mother was present.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Like we can use look at the intricacies of love and relationships in that context. Because weddings are, uh, what is it, multi-million, whatever they're now, right? Industries. Hey, yeah. In that day and age, it probably wasn't, but now it is. So
Mhm, mhm.
they had all the vendors, but the vendors failed them. Yeah, let's look at that.
Mm. A couple of things actually come to mind. I think about the fact that the church is represented. We're the bride.
Hmm.
He's the bridegroom. So I think about that, and like it's interesting that it happened at a wedding. um, I'm thinking a little bit about his dynamic with his mom, because he said, "Hey, this is not my time," but because his mom asked him to do this, then he did it. He performed his first miracle.
Hmm.
So it says a lot about their relationship and their connection and what it meant in that moment to honor his mother,
Mm.
which is a command. So I'm like thinking about that. Yeah, that's what's coming to mind right now.
Wow, I think you hit a really good point because I
Mhm.
think one aspect of love that we don't often hear a lot about is honor, right? It's more about
Yeah, yeah.
respect and submit, but
Mhm,
like honor. You're my mom, I'm God's son,
mhm,
but like I choose to honor you. That
Yeah.
that's do you see this play out in your day-to-day work? Like does honor play a big role? Honor or the lack of it in a love or relationship, do you see it as playing a big role? Or what kind of role do you see it play out?
yeah. I'm thinking about, I don't know if you ever heard of Gottman, but I think he's a psychologist. But he came up with a theory called Gottman method, and it's for married couples. And one of the biggest indicators of a marriage not succeeding in his perspective is contempt. And when I think
Yeah.
about lack of honor, I think contempt. Like you actually do not respect that person anymore. You do not see them on the same level as you. You feel that they are just not, bringing enough to the table. Like you just really, it's like, and I've seen that play out in with some of my clients. And it's really hard. He says there's no coming back from that. Once you've entered a place of contempt, there's no coming back. Typically, there's no coming back because the person just sees the person as almost like beneath them. They're demeaning them. It's really hard
Mhm.
if you're being disrespected in that way to kind of be able to come back from something like that. Um, that's how he perceives it. So yes, I would say that it almost is synonymous with that contempt, lack of honor, and it does not go well. Does not go well. People are not being feeling respected. They're not feeling seen. They're not feeling known. They're not feeling appreciated. And yeah, it gets a lot harder if that's not part of the relationship.
Okay. So that means in every relationship, regardless romantic, what's not, honor has to be present. That's one of it. What's the
Mhm.
big difference between honor and respect?
Hmm.
Hmm.
Is I don't know. Yeah, just how you explained that just made me think of that. Is honor more like I don't know. Let's see what Google will tell us.
I don't know that there's a big difference just thinking about it right now, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Eunice, do you want to speak into that wedding relationship while I Google the difference between honor and respect?
Okay, so what I can say about the wedding where Jesus performed the miracle was I could see that love values relationships and family and community. Now, when Danielle was talking, I was thinking, okay, was Jesus' mother an African? Because it looked like she wanted to show off in a way. Because
She must have been something.
No, she wanted to show off, right? Because I don't see why you would come to your son and say, "Do you know one thing? Do you
Yeah.
know?" Because before I gave birth to you, I was told that you do so many miracles.
Right.
So this is the time to shine. Like, do something. So yeah, so she wanted to show off. But then it gives me another perspective. Like, let me just go back a little to it gives me another perspective that whatever she was told, she kept it, she held on to it, she believed it.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was years after.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe she hadn't seen any miracle being performed, but she still held on to that promise that was given her. And she saw a ripe moment that I remember that before I gave birth to you, this is what the angel told me. I think there's a ripe moment. Just do something. Maybe she was just trying her luck. But you see, Jesus valued the kind of relationship that he had with his mother. So he honored that. Even though it wasn't, okay, maybe, I don't know how the plan was supposed to be, but when his mother said it, well, initially, he gave his own words. Oh, woman, but you know, it's normal. But, don't you think? But he did it. He honored that. And it was a right moment for him to perform that miracle. And it was the best. I know that Mary will go and say, I told you, my son. Well, I'm just looking at an African setting where it'll say, I told you, my son is this. Yeah, exactly. But then it says love values, relationship, family, and community celebration. It was a celebration. It was a perfect moment to demonstrate that. And he did. Now, I was just thinking, why didn't it happen any other time but that moment, the wedding feast? Because that was in union. That was the perfect time for love to be celebrated. Because what other moment would we have celebrated that kind of love? That kind of pure, genuine love. I don't know what other moment you can think of. But that was the perfect time. I think that's what I had to add to it.
Awesome. Thank you. So AI overview. Respect is typically earned through actions and behavior, while honor
Mhm.
is given based on a person's inherent position, value, or integrity,
Mm.
regardless of the actions.
Mm.
Well, it breaks it down here. It says the basis of respect is actions, behavior, accomplishment, but the basis of honor is position, inherent worth, and integrity. And respect is earned, and honor is given or chosen.
Yeah.
So I feel like, I was raised where it's just like it's just honor. Like I don't think that it's about someone earning it. I just have to respect them even if I don't. So I think that's why for me it's synonymous, because I'm like, I don't actually think I grew up in a space where it was something like, okay, they earn it, therefore then you respond to them accordingly. I was raised more in like you just honor, they're an adult, doesn't matter, you honor them, they're in this, you honor them, they're in this role, you honor, that's it, there's no discussion about it. But I could see how in a marriage situation it could be different because you're seeing yourself as an equal. But then if we're thinking about it in a like hierarchy sense, which is a more biblical sense, then it would just be, it's not about necessarily what they're doing always, it could also just be about they're in that position. So yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, seems like the line is very, very thin, and yeah, it can be very, very synonymous. So there's an example here. Let me read that, and we'll end with that one. Showing someone consideration because they listen without interrupting is respect. Honoring a parent's position even if they were not a good parent. So, all right,
Mm.
that's what I'd say. But
But I
I
think
think
now we
that
see more respect than honor because, well, dealing with young people, they will tell you that um, you've not earned my respect. So
Yeah.
you see more respect than honor now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
so. One
So
of the
that's why
things,
we get a lot of younger people disrespecting older people because they want you to earn that.
yeah. So they want you to conduct yourself in a certain way that will end your
Yeah,
respect.
exactly.
But I think like what Danielle said, like we were brought up to just
Mm.
honor people because they were people, just honor adults because
Exactly.
they were adults.
Exactly. Exactly.
But this, like the newer generation, the alphas and what's not, it's more like show me,
And
you know,
the Gen Zs and Alphas.
yeah, yeah. Okay, all right, cool. Let's jump in. Let's jump out of the Bible now. What are the main principles and concepts of psychology with regards to love and relationships?
Mm.
It's your field, you guys. So feed me. I don't know.
Mm.
We can look at two
Principles
or
of
three of the big ones, and
I'm thinking of a couple. I'm thinking attachment theory. That's
yeah.
basic one. Secure attachment, anxious attachment, avoidant attachment, disorganized attachment, which essentially means like, and that speaks to again what you're saying, Eunice, about the need. Like,
Mm.
depending on how you experience connection with your even your guardians, your parents, it really influences how you respond as you grow up. And it can dictate whether you have a secure attachment, avoidant attachment, anxious attachment, disorganized. Disorganized is a mix of avoidant, anxious. Anxious essentially is just like you are feeling like uncomfortable with distance. You know, you're craving that closeness. Whenever someone is kind of responding in a way that, you know, creates
Mhm.
distance, that makes you anxious, it makes you uncomfortable. Maybe closeness with someone that's avoidant attachment, it makes them uncomfortable. And their instinct is to create some distance. Secure, you're comfortable with intimacy. Okay. I think according to the stats, there's more people that are secure actually, but I do feel they
Mhm.
need to, you know, do another survey. You
you
know,
want to challenge the results of this
I want to
survey?
challenge the results. I'm not sure that that is the case, but it is, you know, generally speaking, I think the last time they did any sort of major survey, I think most people were secure. Um, yeah.
Okay.
Danielle, I was gonna let you go back a look to the layman. Like, what is she talking about? What is attachment? Like, what does attachment even mean? But before you get to that, well, I'll have you start from then. Then, why do you say you think they need to do the research? Is it because, like, what is your yeah? But if you want to start us from like what even attachment is, would appreciate that.
Sure. And Eunice, you can step in, you know, jump in at all. But when I think about attachment, I'm just thinking about j- simple form connection. And when I say connection, I'm also just talking about your experience within that connection. Um, it could be a healthy attachment, it could be an unhealthy attachment. Okay. There are people that are trauma bonded, which I want to clarify trauma bonding because people actually don't know what that means. They think it's two people having trauma and being connected over their trauma, but in actuality, it's a relationship formed between an abuser and their victim. That's a trauma bond. But that's an attachment. Okay, so any connection, we're just basic, simple form, any connection. But there's variations to those connections. So you can have a secure attachment where you're comfortable with intimacy, you're comfortable with closeness. It doesn't scare you. There's an anxious attachment where you're feeling fear when there's distance. And your first instinct is to close that gap. You're not thinking necessarily about what it means for the person, what it means for you. You're just thinking, I'm so uncomfortable right now because I'm in fear that there's distance. Um, Someone with an avoidant attachment, you know, there's distance, there's closeness, and they're uncomfortable. They're like, this person's getting too close, they're knowing me too much, I don't know what to do with this, it makes me uncomfortable, I'm scared, you know, things like that, and they'll respond in that way. Disorganized is a mix of the two. Anxious and avoidant is a mix of the two. And I would say that, like, I don't know if you ever come across that video where this baby is crying and the mom, they like had the mom not do anything, just let the baby cry, and the baby's getting louder and louder and it's trying to like throw things and like, because it's like, I need you help, like I'm trying to get your attention. And then they had the mom respond and grab the baby when the baby cried. So it's like you can see how the response, like how they're starting to form their perceptions on attachment. Okay, like, you know, do I have to do a lot of things to get their attention? Can I just, you know, signal and they'll know and they'll come to me? Like, it all of that starts forming from when you're a baby. Okay. And then it can go many different routes. I think it can change over time too. I don't think you're stuck. Like
Mm-hmm.
forever, your anxious attachment, you will forever be anxious attachment, and you can never be better. I think if you find a secure person that helps you to regulate your nervous system, you can get to a place of security eventually. But I think that's when I think about attachment, that's what comes to mind. Eunice, I don't know if there's anything you want to add to what I said.
That's so good.
No, no, I think we said everything. I'll just summarize. So basically, in plain man's language, what she's saying is that how you were loved or not loved as a child affects how we love as adults. Okay, so whatever happens when you were a child
So
affects how you love.
is
Yeah.
is this just in the context of romantic relationship or just any other relationship? 'Cause,
General.
like, general.
General relationship, even how you relate with others, it affects every aspect of your life. So you would see, so sometimes I meet even teens who don't even know how to form friendships. So you would realize that they form friendships, and then within a month or two, they feel that, oh, I'm tired of this friendship, or they tend to change friends. So these are all indicators. So it affects, even sometimes it affects how you change jobs. So you'd realize that there are people who can't even stay in a job for 6 months. 6 months is too long for them. So it affects every aspect of your life. So every form of relationship it affects. Yeah. So basically, that's what attachment talks about.
All right. And Danielle, why do you say they have to redo it? Is it because we just keep hearing that the dating streets are dirty, muddy? Oh my God.
I am coming from the lens of I'm working with a lot of people, and so like I'm I can see how my perspective could be tainted from that, because I'm working with people and they're needing support in that area. But I will say this too, like even when I was in graduate school, we were all like, this needs to be done again. Because we're so many people are struggling in this society. Um, Romantic connections feel further and further away from like something that a lot of people can experience. Like it's something everybody wants because we're designed to need it, but it's something that it feels like less and less attainable. So I'm like, and I think that comes with security. I think having a secure attachment, it helps you to be more susceptible to that sort of dynamic. So yeah, I do think maybe it just needs to be done again because I am curious about what that means. That there's so many people struggling in the area of romance. I also just think that our brain chemistry is changing with how much social media and we're on our phones so much. I just feel like so much is changing mentally for us. So I just feel like our thoughts about people, like us thinking about people more and I think that's changing. I think we're more focused on ourselves. So I don't know. I just feel like it needs to be done again. I don't know that I trust it. Maybe it has been done again, and I just haven't seen the most recent results. But back in graduate
Okay.
school, it was like 55% of people were secure, and I was like, oh, okay.
Hmm.
You said something about finding somebody to heal you. A secure, did you say heal or help you?
I
Something.
think security can heal. Yes.
Okay. So can that security be found in like a relationship with the divine? Or it has to be a breathing, I mean, not that the divine is not, like God is not, yeah, tangible.
Yes. Yeah.
But you get what I'm saying, right? Is it possible, or does it have to be based on, either of you can answer based on your experiences?
Hmm.
Well, I think that you need both. So, you see, sometimes yes, you need to have a relationship with the divine. It takes care of your spiritual part of you. But then there are times that, okay, you need a therapist, you need maybe a psychologist, a counselor to help you. Because what I've realized is that sometimes we don't even know what is contributing
Hmm.
to the challenge that we have till we get to talk to someone, the person asks the right questions, and then we realize, okay, this is it. So it goes all the way to this aspect of my life. So you need a balance of both. Usually people would confuse that, okay, since I'm talking to God, it should be enough. But there are times that you'd also need the human touch to it. I think that we are talking about love and relationships. That's also part of relationships.
Hmm.
We are here for a purpose. That relationship is also very important. You need a human touch to it, because there are certain things that you might not even know. For example, recently I was helping some students do some tests, and it was very hard for them to answer some of the questions. It was just personality tests, but it was very hard for them to answer some of the questions. So sometimes you would have maybe a friend there. So if there's a question about how the person behaves, a friend will be there. Oh, do you think I'm like this? Then we all brainstorm and say, yeah, like this. She herself doesn't even know exactly how she behaves. It was a friend. That's relationship. So sometimes you need another person to help you discover some aspects of you that you don't even know. I don't know if you get the picture.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that you're not spiritual enough. You can be very spiritual, do the right things spiritually, and still be struggling with anger problems. Still be having other aspects of you that needs help.
Yeah.
So it should be a balance.
Should be a balance.
And I've handled issues where I have done just therapy and realized that no, the therapy alone wouldn't work. But the person needs, maybe I ask the person, okay, speak to your pastor. Let him do the prayer bit of it while I do the therapy, and it works magic, because the human brain has a way of working. Sometimes the person feels that my problem is spiritual. So if you don't add that bit of spirituality, no matter what you do, it won't work for them. It doesn't mean that you're not doing the right things, but the person needs that as a placebo to make it work.
I didn't know there was psychological placebo, but I'm learning today. I like it.
Yeah, so we do a balance of both.
Okay. All right. Great. Let's move on. So we looked at one of the really big principles, which is attachment. Why is love such a core need? I know Maslow came up with a theory, but why? Why is love so? Why are we so needy of love?
Well, I think that we are so needy of love because human beings are wired for connection. Okay, we are wired for connection. You see, when a baby is born, the first thing that they do is to let the mother feel the baby. They would, I don't know, that's what I know, that you would have to at least touch the baby, feel the baby. The connection should be there. A baby wants to be held. Okay, we are wired for connection. Without that connection, there's a deficit.
But why are we wired for connection? I mean,
I'm coming there.
okay.
For
We need to ask God that. Why did you do that?
No, so without that connection, there is a deficit. We can start from the Garden of Eden. Okay, why didn't God just leave Adam there? He knew that Adam wouldn't survive alone. Adam wouldn't function. Now, Adam was in a deep sleep. I was wondering how Adam was able to acknowledge that that's the bone of my bone. Because you were in a deep sleep, you hadn't seen anybody before.
Right.
But then, as soon as the person appeared, he could feel that connection, that something was missing. And then that thing that was missing had been found. Okay, it helps us to feel seen, heard, and understood. Where you wish that someone can hear you, where you wish that someone can see you, where you wish that someone can touch you. Our senses work in that way. We communicate, we do everything with them. In fact, we even need that to survive. Now, even if you look at the Trinity, God didn't create a world on it. Says, let us. There was a connection there. Why didn't he just say, let it, and it was? He just let us. So there was a connection there. Our brain, every aspect of our brain is connected. If I show you a picture of how the brain works, you would see, or even a video of how the brain works, you could see that everything is connected. And then I wish that maybe the next time we do something like that, I would bring a video of how the brain, and I'll show you a brain that the person, maybe someone who is in lab's brain and someone who is not in lab's brain, and you would see the difference of how the brain, the neurons are firing when the person is in love, and how the neurons fire when the person is not in love. And you see a great difference in between
Mm,
them. That connection is real.
mm,
It helps us function as human beings
yeah.
because that you know that you are not alone. You know that someone has your back. You know that, okay, this thing. So I do a lot of crisis management. And one of the things that helps in crisis management is when the person feels that this thing or this situation that I'm going through, I'm not alone. Because usually people perceive people perceive a situation as a crisis situation when they feel that they are not alone and there's no way out. But one of the things that helps them through it is when they feel that they have another person to support them out of it. So it's that connection that everybody yearns for. For some reason, it's inherent.
Mm-hmm.
We were created like that.
Mm-hmm.
I wish that I knew how we fall in love, but I don't know. Because you see that connection where you meet someone and sometimes you ask yourself, why do I even love this person? Like you just go, why do I even love you? Like, why? Why is this thing? You just want, of course, we know the physical features and everything, but like there are times that you want to understand how this thing happened. It's that connection. You see someone gives birth to a baby and that connection is there. The love is something that he or she cannot explain. Now ask a child why he or she loves the mother and the person just can't explain. It's that connection where we yearn for a relationship. We yearn to belong to someone. We yearn to belong to something. And that is a core. It's just like asking me that hunger, how does hunger work? I wish that you could explain it. Because no, hunger is a basic human need. I wish you could explain how hunger works.
Right.
If you explain it, I'll explain how love as a basic need works.
But to go along with what you're saying, Eunice, I think sometimes I don't think it has an explanation because I think it's an identity thing. And what I mean
Yeah.
by that is, how Scripture says God is love. So, and we're image bearers, like you said. It said, "Let
Yes.
us make man in our own image." So we're literally reflecting that. Even we don't understand why, we just are because we were
Yeah.
created to do so. So, and I don't think that love actually should have a reason. Um,
No.
because then there's stipulations. Okay, there's you do this, this, and that, then you get it.
Hmm.
Which, as we know from our Bibles, that's not how God created it. He
Right.
created it like this is just this is who I am, and this is what you have because of this is who I am. Um, there isn't. It's not something that we have to make happen. So maybe that's why it's unanswered. Maybe it's not clear for that reason, and maybe that's okay. Because it just speaks to the fact that he is that, and we need him.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's yeah. Um yeah. I don't even know what to say. But what I was you said something which I think I had, in time past thought about it. Like you said something about meeting somebody and liking them. I think maybe as psychologists, you guys can speak into that. I think sometimes it's based on our perception of, because you can make somebody look like what you're not so that you can love them or you can like them.
Mm,
What is that? I mean, is there a psychological concept to that? Because, like Eunice mentioned and said, oh, you don't know why you like the person. But could it be because our psyche has been thought, or we have generated or made in our psyche, this is lovable, or so then when we see that, then is there like is there an explanation, is there a concept to that, or are we just looking? Yeah.
I can't think of a term like a terminology. Which Eunice, maybe you have terminology, but what I'm thinking about right now is kind of what we were talking about in terms of like our example of love is what we grow up with, right? So it
Okay.
Mhm.
becomes your framework and your reference. So you start looking for connection in that
Yeah.
way because that is what you know, not
Mhm.
because it's what you need, but it's what you know. And we gravitate toward what is familiar. So that is something that I would say, like, when you're saying, like, hey, like, is there a terminology for this? Like, why are people, like, how do we even get there? Like, does our perception influence who we choose? Yes, because our perception is built based off of like what we know. And that then becomes a framework for what we then pursue.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's why, when you have security in connection with people, you tend to pursue someone that is more secure. So, like, you're not going to choose someone, typically that is like toxic, because you're like, no, like, this is not healthy. I don't want this, but even then you could still find yourself in that dynamic,
Right.
anything is possible. But, I do think our experience influence then what we pursue and what we define as love and what we feel is normal, and familiar.
Okay.
All
Yeah,
right.
I also want to add something. So, we all have emotional needs and emotional tanks that need to be filled. It's just like, let me give an example. Sometimes when you're very hungry and you're looking for food to eat, sometimes you just grab whatever is available for you to eat just because you want to just quench the hunger. Sometimes it's like that. Okay. It's because maybe that love tank is empty. You need that to be filled. The person seems to be showing you signs. Okay, maybe the person is not your ideal, but because that tank is empty, that needs to be, and it's a basic need, you need to fill it. So whatever is available, you would fill it with it.
Yeah,
But then at a point, you realize that no, I filled it with the wrong thing. So that's what happens sometimes.
that's good.
Okay. How does we are going off into the deep end into relationships now? How does a person fill that love tank or need that way they don't grab things with both hands? Because there's this African proverb that says, no matter how much hungry you are, you don't eat with both hands, you eat with one. So because the need or the hunger for love can make us take whatever is presented to us, is there a way we can consciously, intentionally fill up the need for love so we are not eating with both hands per se?
Mm,
Well, I think that one of the things is to build relationships. So I usually advocate for relationship, not just maybe like love relationship. I know when I say love relationship, I would the opposite sets, yeah, like that. So build certain relationship, a support system around you. I think that that serves as the as support to you, because usually there are other ways that we can feel that love tank or that emotional need can be met. The first one is, okay, your relationship with God. That's the first one. When he feels it, when you feel loved, when you feel cared for, when you feel heard or seen by him, is the first step. The second is your relationships with the people around you. Now, I have never shared this before, but Stella is here, so I'll share it. Like, Stella and I were very close. We've been friends for how many years? 20, right?
Yeah, probably close to, yeah.
Yes, I think that we've gone through some stages of relationships and all of that. And usually we reach out to each other. There are times that you are broken, but then we have each other. Okay, we speak about them and then we support each other. And it feels like, oh, nothing has happened. Like we have each other. Okay, we can talk about anything, we can affirm each other, and then we are good to go. That's a support system. So there are times that we can go on with life without even thinking that there is something empty that we need to fill. Because I know, yes, I'm a psychologist, okay, that's it. But if I have any challenge, okay, I know who to call. If I need someone to talk to, I know who to call. Okay, so there is not a point where I feel that someone else has to fill that tank for me. I surround myself with a group of people who form my support. I'm not saying that, okay, that aspect of my life is not important. It's very important. But then, if it is not there, what do? You live life regardless. But then there are certain relationships that could give you the laugh that you need. Someone to pray for, someone to pray with you, someone to support you, someone to talk to. Okay, I need to take this decision. Who can I talk to? These are people who can support you throughout. Okay, maybe you've gone through a loss, you've lost somebody, someone who can be that support for you, all of that. So when you surround yourself with such people, even making a decision on a life partner, these people would help you to make those decisions. So that even when you're too hungry, that you want to grab anything at all that comes, they'll tell you, hey, you know you're allergic to this food, so this is not what to go to. Exactly. So I think that usually I advocate for a strong support system because that's what would cushion you at the points that you're very desperate. Thank you.
Mm, mm. I really like what Eunice just said because that's so important. And I think we prioritize love, like romantic love, as like, okay, this is the thing that will fill me. But you also have to understand, like, and I'll talk to people and they're like, I'm so lonely. I'm so lonely. I'm like, okay, what, how are you defining lonely? Because there's a lot of people surrounding you. So what are
Mm.
you like? And when you really whittle it down, it's typically like they mean they don't have a partner. Okay.
Yeah,
But I'm like,
yeah,
you have people, you have friends, you have your community, you have people. If you go to church, you have people in your church, you have people in like whatever activity you're part of. So it's interesting that that's where our mind goes. So I like that you're labeling it like a support system that doesn't just include romantic love, but is also friendship, family, your church community. There's
yeah,
various ways that we can be getting that need met that doesn't just look like romance.
So basically, what you guys are saying is have a balanced diet, right? Don't
Mhm.
just eat the, don't just wait for the icing on the cheesecake.
Yeah.
Like have a balanced diet. Get
yes, yeah,
from different areas. Okay, awesome, great. I think that has kind of answered the question I had. I was going to ask whether love is required for a relationship or does a relationship require love, but um,
Mm.
I think we've answered it. Now, what does it take to love someone
Mm.
from a
mm.
psychological point of view? What does it take to love someone?
Mm.
What does it take to eat healthy?
So there's this theory, I think it's called triangular theory of love. And it's
Mhm.
like there's three things. There's commitment, passion, and intimacy.
Yeah,
That's what it takes. And it has to be a combination. At least two things have to be in combination for it to be anything. Um, I can see how there's some truth to that, but I would say also for me, I think it's choice. I think it's alignment. Like I really do believe alignment. Like I think if you both are on the same page around how you love and how you're seeing your dynamic, you can move forward together. And I even think about this in connection to the Bible. I know we've been referencing the Bible a lot, but like Jesus and the Father, their union, they were in alignment. That's what made it work. So, like, I feel like if you have that, yes, that's what it takes to love someone. And obviously, there's more. Like when we're thinking about variations of like romance, like obviously there's attraction, there's intimacy, there's depth, all of that. There's consistency, care, all those things I would say, would also be needed. But I think at the core, I'm just thinking like alignment when I think about that, like for all the various relationships.
yes. Okay, thank you. I think that you've said everything, but I'll throw more light on the commitment because that's a word I love. Relationship comes with commitment. I'm seeing a lot of passive relationship where people would take convenience over commitment, but love is a relationship is work.
Yeah.
And people would ride on the fact that okay, they have butterflies, they feel this way, so they think that that's it. But there's a lot of work where there are days that you don't feel like loving, but you have to love. There are days that you don't feel like showing up, but you have to show up for the other person. There are days that you don't feel like listening, but you have to listen. There are days you don't feel like communicating, but you have to communicate because love comes with work. And it's the same way as the Bible says, but because a lot of the a lot of the cases that I see, you could see that that commitment bit is out of it, where it's and love is put on autopilot, where we feel that okay, um, we love each other, so things should work out. But it comes with commitment and a lot of work. where you put in the work. You try to understand each other, try to understand each other's perspective. In fact, you get home from work, each of you, maybe you're tired, but you don't, I have to place a call to this person. How was your day? Even if it's just for 5 minutes before I go to bed, it is work. So it is commitment. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to be keeping some of these things too for future references. To help you guys. All right. Oh, great. So, I think you ladies have nailed it, and I really love how Danielle, you talked about alignment because it made me think about the God thing too, right? Like how Jesus was in alignment and commitment. Like he was committed to go to the cross, but even when it was so hard, he still went because he
Yeah.
was committed and he was so aligned that he said, "Your will." Because you talked about the attraction, but I think even attraction falls under alignment, right?
Mm,
Because we're aligned, we both like the same things, or we're
mm,
both drawn towards the same thing. So,
mm,
yeah, alignment. And maybe you guys should be more vocal about this because I think, when I say be more vocal about it, I mean like on social media and stuff. Because I think we're getting a lot of the negative stuff, like what it takes to love, like, oh, you gotta be perfect, you gotta be making this amount of money, you have to have a BBL, like, but then I'm exaggerating here, but the actual things like the alignment and the commitment, we're not hearing a lot about that. We, oh, it's Sisyphean, that's what, like, that's like the criteria, but technically not. So, yeah, but thank you guys for that. What does it take to be in a successful relationship? Pair, what you guys have seen so far.
mm.
Is it just alignment or is it more? Or I guess what is a successful relationship? I think that is very important. Let's look at that. Successful relationship, because I think coming from an African Black background, we tend to think successful with number of years, right? They've been married 50
Mhm.
years. Oh my goodness, but what is a successful relationship? Is it the length of time? Is it the quality of time?
Mm. Quality, for sure. Hmm. I feel like it varies. I don't know that I have a concrete answer. I want to be mindful because I do think it varies. But when I think about it, generally speaking, like I think it is alignment, I think it is commitment, but I also think like it's growth.
Yes, growth.
Um, it's your ability to grow together. Because you notice how some people are connected for maybe 10 years and then they fall off. Not because anything went wrong, but because they're growing in opposite directions or they're on different paths. But when you're growing together, you just keep going together. Those people are still in each other's lives for a long extended period of time. So I do think growth has a big impact on people's ability to stay together. And it doesn't discredit what they've had. It just means it starts to look different over time if they're growing in different directions, if that makes sense.
Okay. So it could be either or, but the most important thing you're saying for a successful relationship is to grow in the same direction.
If not grow in the same direction, maybe I should clarify. I think I'm just thinking growth in general because you could be growing in different directions, but you still have a similar vision and it still works, right? Um, but I'm just thinking about like if you're back here, like, and then the other person is all like, I just feel like it starts to feel it could be interesting. But then also that's where commitment can come in. And that could still make it work because you've made a choice. I'm going to be committed and I'm going to stay and stick it out, even if we're not in the same direction we're going. So, that's what I'm saying. I'm not entirely sure. I think it could vary.
Okay. What do
Yeah.
you think, Eunice?
Yes, I agree with Danielle. I think that growth is very important. Where you're both growing together, you're supporting each other's values and vision. It's not just one person maybe growing and the other. You pull each other along, so you're growing together. And I think that every relationship, before the relationship starts, you should have a goal. You should have a vision towards the relationship, and then you should grow towards that. So that's what leads to a successful relationship. So you could look at where it started, where you've gotten to, do your analysis, and then know how successful you have been in that relationship.
Okay. What you just said made me think of a question. You said Every relationship should have a goal. All right,
Yeah.
let's say this is a romantic relationship we're talking about, and our goal is to get married. Now we are married. What? And
Okay.
I think that's probably what we are seeing now a lot, because it's like the goal is to get to the altar, and so now we are at the altar. What next?
No, but
Mm,
at every stage of your life, you review your goals.
yeah.
Because I think that when you started from primary school, you wanted to write your BEC. After BEC, you said, okay, I want to go to this school. You wanted to write your SSC. You wrote your SSC. I want to go to university. I wanted to do this. So at every point in your life, you review your goals
Mhm.
depending on the stage that you get to. You get married, okay, we want to have 2 children. Now your children, then you start, it changes. So you wouldn't start with the goals from the beginning, but as you grow, it changes. When you have 3 children, now you begin to change everything in the house. Now, okay, one wants to go to this school, even budgeting, everything changes. Now your saving plans, all of that changes. So you begin to review each goal as it goes on. But then, as she said, there are lots of people that as soon as they get married, they leave everything like that. And then you begin to see the marriage struggling because now the man begins to complain. My wife only pays attention to the children and does not attend to my needs. It's because those goals have not been reviewed. So
Yeah.
sometimes we forget that we are a team. So yes, so these goals need to be reviewed
Okay.
regularly.
So, as psychologists and licensed therapists, would you say, like you said, every state has its goal? Do you wait to get to the goal, or do you have, like smart goals, right? Measured, blah, 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 blah. Is it appropriate or is it advisable to have the whole game plan drawn out and then, take it chunk by chunk? Or do you just wait and see and then figure out the goals as you go?
Mm.
Just in general, just based on how our brains work, and you guys know. Yeah.
It's dependent on the person, the couple, because some people are very future oriented. So they do have the play by play of the next 5 years, and there are people that are not that way. Um, but I think it is good to have like a check in, like make that
Mhm.
part of your dynamic of like, hey, we're just gonna check in. Some people, I encourage weekly check-ins, once a month check-ins, every 6 month check-in, just to discuss and have an idea of like, okay, where are we now? Because also we don't want to be so future focused that we're not present focused,
Yeah.
because that could also be a problem too. And ultimately, if your values align, which I hope they will, they do, your values align, I do feel you can have those conversations, and eventually land on something similar if your values are similar.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. What have you guys found to be the most common thing that wrecks all kinds of relationship, from platonic to church community to romantic? What have you guys found in your work to usually really wreck relationships, so we can stay away from that?
Mm,
Well, I will start. I think communication. It's been a major problem.
What is
Poor
communication?
communication.
Because
Sorry.
I, what is communication? Can you break it down to us? Like, what does that even mean?
mm,
Okay, so communication, um, it's a lot of things. So how we interact with each other, how we give each other information, I was going to use communicate again. How we talk to each other. So usually, you see, what I've realized is that sometimes we struggle, okay, to let each other, our friends, the people around us, even the people that we are dating, know how we feel, what we think about situation, even the way we interpret
mm,
things. Okay, so we leave rooms for assumptions. And that is a major problem because if you don't explain, I assume. And usually my assumptions are wrong.
mhm,
And that creates problem. So a lot of the challenges that, okay, a lot of the issues that I have seen in relationships, sometimes it's even between a mother and a child, there's communication. The mother says, my child doesn't even talk to me a lot. The child says that the way my mother talks to me is a problem. My mother doesn't even listen. All is under communication.
mhm,
Sometimes you can see a husband and a wife having problems, and the wife says that he doesn't listen when I talk, or he doesn't talk. Sometimes even body language, even cues that the woman or the man leaves are all this. Communication is a really big problem. misunderstandings usually would come as a result of poor communication. And I think is one of the major problems. And one thing I've realized, I don't know about where you are, but in Ghana here is one of the major problems that we see where I think that, especially with women, they think that men are magicians. They should know what you think,
Mind
how
reading.
you feel. Like I should be able to tell. Sorry, but I'm not on the women's side today. Forgive me, but it's the truth. Like,
You're getting
oh
really
yeah,
passionate about this one.
no, it's true because they feel that you should be able to tell at least. And but what we don't know is that, you see, sometimes just telling him how I feel, it's enough. But then we assume that the fact that I'm cold, you should know that I'm cold because you did this in the morning. But maybe he's also thinking about something else. Excuse me, let me just say this, but men sometimes don't link the situations as we think they should link it. So you have to voice it out, voice it for them to understand. So yes, that's just but basically communication is a major problem when it comes to relationship, poor communication, yes. And I think that when communication is worked on, I see relationships improved where even just given just little updates, continuous updates, just telling him how you feel about something. Sometimes even how you communicate politely, the choice of words, it's enough. So communication is one of the major problems I see when it comes to relationship.
Mhm. Yeah.
What
I
about you?
I agree. I agree. I wrote a lot of other things down, but I want to speak specifically to communication really quick because it is so important. It is a big part of a successful dynamic. And I'll say this, like it's even as simple as like how you address someone. You know,
Yeah.
we can be so accusatory with our language,
Yeah.
like with our communication. So we might be like, you did this. Just a simple
Yeah.
shift of I, which requires vulnerability, which people do not like doing, but you
No,
need
no,
to
no,
be
no.
vulnerable in connection. Like I felt this. I don't want to make an assumption that you did
Uh,
this, but I felt this when this happened. Can we talk about it? Do you see how that shift? Like even like,
mm,
oh, you're late. You were late today. Like meeting someone with that instead of saying, hey, I was expecting you at this time. I actually really missed you. And I,
mm,
all that shift, like you instantly disarm someone just responding in a different way. Um, and so that's why it's so important. Even like, I think we've gotten into the habit of demonstrating our feelings, what you were saying, Eunice, versus communicating them. So
yeah.
we'll act cold instead of just saying, hey, what happened earlier? This is how I felt. I just want to share it with you. Totally different, but we have gone to that habit. And communication is such a vital part of any sort of relationship. When we first get to know people, we are talking with them constantly,
Yes.
asking
Yeah.
questions, we're inquiring, things like that. That's how you get to know them. A big part of us being in love or feeling loved by someone is we feel known by them, we feel seen by them. If you're not communicating, that isn't happening. So a lot of things get missed. And then little by little, there's distance being created. So I do think that's a big reason why communication is a reason why people do not stay in their
Yeah.
relationship.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of other reasons like mistrust,
Mm-hmm.
complacency. Okay,
Yeah.
we're in the same habit over and over again, going through the motions. We're not really, reviewing our goals.
Mm-hmm.
We're not in that habit. Um, Being very independent versus interdependent is a big
Mm.
one, I think personally. Money problems, which money often is connected to security.
Yeah.
Contempt, like we talked about earlier, like you're demeaning your partner. It's not going to go well for you. Misalignment, you're not aligned. I think these are all reasons why relationships, tend to struggle.
Yes, I also want to add something. There's also unrealistic expectations where we enter relationships expecting perfection. But
Yeah.
sometimes I ask them, so are you even perfect yourself? Like you expect that, okay, your imperfections, the other person should accept them, but you expect perfection from the other person. So we have unrealistic expectations when we enter relationships. And that's one of the things that I think that also affects relationships a lot. So unrealistic expectations where we are demanding perfection from our partners. But we need to make room for imperfections. Because when you demand perfection and then things don't go the way you want them to go, you get broken and then you begin to react.
True.
Okay.
Now,
Mm.
I was just gonna say, is the unrealistic expectations linked to communication? Because if I've not communicated what my expectations are, they're not gonna be realized. If I'm not the only, variable in the situation, right? So does that move hand in hand?
Not entirely, but you see, sometimes we watch movies, we've been exposed to certain ideals which are not the reality. Okay, we've been exposed to certain ideals. So it's not just about communication, but let's think, you expect that, okay, marriage relationship should go in a certain format.
Mm.
Maybe your friend got married, this is how it went. So
Mm.
sometimes you talk to them, you think that, okay, that's how your marriage would go. But then we are different. We have different dynamics. For instance, maybe how I grew up, my siblings, my brothers are very romantic. Let me say that, extremely romantic, very sweet. So you get it. So maybe that's what I've been exposed to. So when I meet a man, I have these expectations. Okay, that you want that extreme, not that the man that you meet is not romantic, but you have this extreme unrealistic expectations where you want to come home to flowers, where you want to be called babes, and those things. But sometimes these typical Ghanaian men, especially Ashanti, you might not get the exact thing. It doesn't mean that they are not good men, but you might have this picture of perfection in your mind that you expect that every relationship should be like that. Okay. And then you begin to demand it. So when it doesn't go that way, you feel disappointed and you begin to react. And I've heard people make comparison that, oh, my cousin's marriage, her husband did this A, B, C, D, and you're not doing that. But it's different. There are other things that your husband is doing that your cousin's husband is not doing. But just that, you see, sometimes we flaunt the nice aspects of our relationships to others, and we don't show the horrible parts. Let me put it that way to you. So you might think that everything is perfect, and might wish for that, but that is not it.
Mm.
So yes, there are times it might be linked, but not entirely. We usually have a picture in our mind of what we think that relationship or marriage or anything should be like. So
Mm.
that's also what leads to unrealistic expectations.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
Danielle, you were gonna say something.
I was just going to quickly add too, this is where we also need to know ourselves a little bit.
Hmm.
Because um, even with the assumption comma you made, Eunice, like that's coming from our own personal experiences. That is
Exactly.
influencing our assumption. And so, you need to check in with yourself. Sometimes you're feeling some sort of way, but it's a projection. The person actually isn't
Exactly.
doing anything wrong. If
No.
you're feeling some sort of way about whatever it could be, and it's being projected onto your partner.
Yeah.
So, that's where we also have to have an understanding of ourselves in a relationship. And I think sometimes we rely too much on our partners to say like they need to make us happy, or they no, you need to be doing that work for yourself and figuring out, hey, what's going on with me internally. It's not that person's responsibility to
Yes. Yeah.
ensure that you're happy and everything goes well. And you also need to be checking with yourself, hey, how am I doing today? What's going on? How am I doing mentally, emotionally, physically? If you're not doing that check-in, it could be that you're channeling a lot of things onto your partner, which is a problem.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. We're about wrapping up here in 15 minutes. Um, let's see. Let's explore some of the, I think we might have kind of hinged on this, like principles of healthy love in all kinds of relationships, work relationships, family relationships. I think we've kind of spoken a little bit into that. Yeah. Okay, so now let's use the last few minutes to look at some big psychology words today that we all know thanks to social media. Gaslighting. What does it mean to be gaslight? Like the technical, what it really means, not what people think it means that they use it, but what does it mean to be gaslit?
Mm.
I think that gaslighting is a psychological manipulation where you see, for someone to be able to get full control over you, the person first has to work on your mind. So when it comes to gaslighting, okay, um, you are manipulated to now doubt your reality.
Yes.
Let me put it that way. So you're manipulated to doubt your reality. So now you begin to think that everything is your fault. So when something happens, it's because you're sensitive. When something happens, everything becomes your fault. So it is because you are sensitive. It is because you don't know how to handle situations. Now you begin to doubt who you are. You know, when we're going to talk about the psychological concepts or theories that affect a relationship, I was going to talk about self concepts, but I think that Danielle brought it up because that's very important. So usually when it comes to gaslighting, they attack your self concept,
Yeah.
what you think about yourself, who you are. And you see, let me just shift to the Bible a bit. That's also how the devil attacks, because he attacks what you think about yourself. Because when that is attacked, every aspect of you can be attacked as well. So that's actually how gaslighting works. So the person attacks your reality. The person thinks that the person makes you that you are manipulated to think that there is something wrong with you. You are the problem. So you are reacting to this not because I did something wrong, but because you are emotional.
Mm.
I maybe I hit you not because I'm abusive, but because you provoked me.
Mhm.
So they make you feel that everything is your fault, and then you begin to depend on them. I just
Mhm.
wanted to use plain language for you to understand. I hope you get to know.
All right,
Yeah.
great.
Please, Danielle, would you want to add something?
Oh
Yeah.
no, you said it exactly you said is what I was gonna say. Yeah, and you added a little bit more too, so that was great.
So, in a layman's concept of my understanding of what you just explained, basically gaslighting is skewing my perception to the point that I begin to self doubt. That way, giving you control of how or who I am and how I see everything. Is that
Yeah, so it's a form of psychological manipulation.
all right? Let's look at some other stuff. Now, the big one, which I think it might be a $1 million industry at this point. Narcissism. Like, did I even pronounce it right? Narcissist.
Yes. Yes.
Narcissism. Like, let's talk about that because like everybody, this was a narcissist, and I was married to a narcissist. I mean, I don't doubt that people have had all sort of experience, but narcissism and narcissist. Please explain, Daniel. Can you take it lead on that one?
Sure, sure. So this is what I'll say. Narcissistic personality disorder, NPD,
Okay.
is serious. Okay.
Okay.
When people are throwing around the word narcissism, they're using it interchangeably with selfishness or someone is
Exactly.
self-absorbed. It's not, that's not what it is. Okay. This person is grandiose. They lack a lot of empathy and they're like consumed with their own admiration. It's rooted in deep, deep insecurity. Someone that is a
Yeah.
narcissist, they have deep insecurity. That is actually the foundation of what creates this. And they have to create a reality, almost a fantasy, in which they're the best person they know. And that is not something that I would say every single person is walking around with. I think that is a select few that have that. And it's very, very hard to diagnose in that that person is not coming to therapy. They're typically, they
No,
don't
no,
believe
no.
they're a narcissist.
Don't
They
show up.
they don't believe they're a narcissist. I think
No,
we
they
all
won't show up.
I think we all have we're human. We can be self-absorbed. Yes, there's a so like we cannot use it interchangeably with someone being self-absorbed because that's not what it means. But it's on a much grander level, and it's typically rooted in, insecurity. That person can be very charming. Like they have people around them. Like it's not always that they do, but they can be typically charming. So there's a lot of, there's a lot more to it that I don't think people are processing. But that's what I think about when I think about like narcissistic personality disorder, like NPD. You have a personality disorder, like how someone can have dissociative identity disorder where they have multiple. It's like this is like a big deal if you have narcissistic personality disorder.
Hmm. That's interesting because, I mean, of course, I've heard it thrown about on social media, but I didn't know that it was actually a personality disorder. I based on like what social media had taught me, I thought it was just like, people just being whatever, but I didn't realize it was a. So, is there a criteria? Because I know sometimes you guys have your DSM, DS5, whatever,
Yeah.
whatever. Is there a criteria by which somebody can be clinically diagnosed
Yes.
narcissistic?
Yes. I
Okay.
actually looked this up because I was like, I want to also know and I want to reference it.
Yeah,
And
there's there's
some of the things that were listed were like grandiosity, which that's the obvious one, clear. Preoccupation with fantasies, like you're living like in an alternate reality, which you're on top. Seeing yourself as special, need for admiration, entitlement, exploitation of others, envy, arrogance, lack of empathy, things like that. So these are all categories, and you
yeah,
need to have like at least 5 or 6 of these in order
at
to
least
be
five. Yeah.
diagnosed. Yeah, 5, and to be diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder.
Okay. So based on the criteria, it's just really interesting. In a self-absorbed self world today, it's like probably that's the reason why people are throwing the word around left and
Yeah.
right, because you could easily find somebody that would meet
But
these
all of them meet all of
five, but you just needed five to be diagnosed, right?
Yes, at least five. So if you don't
At
have at
least
least
five.
five, you
But
cannot be diagnosed.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
But you find that not everybody, I hear what you're saying, but most people don't have 5.
Don't
Most
have
people don't.
that.
Most
Okay.
people don't have 5. 5 is a lot. Like
Mhm.
it would be intense. Like it would be an intense person. Like most people do not have 5.
Okay. All right.
Mhm.
Eunice, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think that she said everything about narcissistic. So she said it. So yes, basically, you have to be diagnosed. And I was saying earlier that, these are words that are being thrown around. I get a lot of these psychological words being thrown around without people really understanding them because they've read something on the internet. So when they just see one trait, they assume that, oh, this is it. But really, it is not.
Yeah. I mean, I think
But
there are.
also, there's some form of gaslighting in it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right.
Because
I was going to ask about attachment theories, but I think you guys did a great job on
Yes, we're
that.
talking about that.
You broke it down really great. I really love it. And I didn't know there was a mixed one about the disorganized one. So that was interesting and good to learn. Now let's look at trauma versus wounds. That's also like a lot of, social media, psychology language. What is the difference between a trauma and a wound?
Hmm. But what's the difference between trauma and a wound?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that trauma has to do with. Okay, wait, let me just hold on. I was going to
yeah,
say it has to do with an injury or an overwhelming emotional experience, but then I'm thinking about wounds as well and how wounds in this context, how we're going to place wounds in this context. So you let me just hold on a bit
Okay. Danielle, do you have
because
to go for it while she puts it together?
no, I'm also in the same place as Eunice because I was thinking about something, but I'm like, actually, that would still be in the
yeah,
category of a wound.
yeah,
So I
yeah,
was like,
yeah.
oh, actually, I can't go down that route. Um, but I think I'll say this way: when I'm thinking about the variation, I'm thinking about the impact versus they could mean the same thing, but I think the impact is what distinguishes them both, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. So what I mean by that is a wound heals. And trauma heals too, but the impact of trauma may be different than the impact of a wound is what I'm thinking about right now. And that actually just may be the thing that it deciphers it. I don't know. I think they can be the same. I think they can be synonymous. But I'm thinking about like with a wound, like if you have a scab, it will heal,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. With trauma, it's perpetual impact and it influences a lot. It influences your mind, it influences so much of how you show up, and and it's maybe a little bit harder to come back from in a way that maybe a
Mm-hmm.
wound would heal. So I'm just thinking about maybe the healing process is different. Um, that's what's coming to my mind right now. But I do think they are similar. So yeah, I was similar to Eunice. I was having trouble kind of distinguishing the two.
Okay.
Okay, yes. I also agree that they are similar, but trauma seems to be deeper than wounds.
Mhm.
And usually trauma is a bit complex as compared to wounds. So a wound can be, you can get, maybe you can be wounded from maybe a relationship, rejection, all of that. But trauma is complex and usually is life-threatening. So when it
Mhm.
comes to trauma, you would need help in dealing with it.
Mhm.
Yes, likewise wound, but when you look at the impact of both, the impact of trauma is deeper.
Mhm.
Okay, and it can be life-threatening that the person would need. Sometimes someone can be wounded, but with maybe some minimal help, the person is able to get back on the feet, get back to normal life. But with trauma, the person needs help, therapy, to be able to navigate life again. So that is basically it. And when you ignore the effects of trauma, you would see that as the person gets older, it begins to show. So the effects of that trauma begins to show. So it's not something that can easily be neglected. So basically, yeah.
Okay. So what I'm understanding is impact when it comes to trauma. But then you
Yes.
introduce a word, you said complex. What do you mean by trauma
Oh.
being complex? Does it just mean that it affects different spheres or aspects of your life, personality, or is it like what does that mean?
When I think about,
Yes. Okay. Okay, Danielle, please go on.
I was just going to say, when I think about complex, I'm thinking about the fact that it looks different for everyone. It's not this very concrete, this is exactly what it means, because it shows up differently for every single person. So someone could go through the same
Mhm.
exact thing as someone else, and their response to it
Yeah.
is entirely different. I think that's what, for me, when I think about complex, that's what makes trauma a little bit more complex. Because you're like, I would have had this reaction. This was your reaction though. That's interesting. Like, whereas like with a wound, you're seeing something, you see the problem, you see exactly what it is, and you're like, okay, I just need to do this and this to heal it. It's not as clear cut. Is basically what I'm thinking about. But Eunice, I don't know if there's anything else you're thinking about.
Oh, yes, 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 yes. So it's complex. With wounds, it's usually very specific and situational. So you look at the situation that caused it. But when we say um trauma, and we say that it's complex because I would say that it's more disruptive, okay, and it
Mm,
becomes overwhelming for the person. Usually, we measure it by how overwhelming it becomes for the person, and it's not the same for everybody. Just like we define crisis, we can go through the same experience, but the impact.
yeah.
Okay, so something that might be easier, maybe for Danielle to deal with, based on her resources available to her, her internal resources, might be overwhelming for me. So I would feel the impact more than she would feel. So it might be traumatic to me, but not to her. It depends. So we might go through losing a loved one, but the impact, maybe the person we lost is the only person I have, but she
Mhm.
has other people that might provide her the same support. So she lost one person, I lost one person, but the impact is different.
Mhm.
So it might be traumatic to me. So that's it. That's what makes it complex.
Okay. Man, there's so much in this. We are out of time. The last thing I would ask, healing and therapy, difference, benefits.
Mhm.
Um, can I heal without going through therapy? Is therapy essential? I think it's so important that you guys speak to this, especially now. Yeah. But I was gonna say, like, even in our communities, like our Ghanaian communities and maybe Black communities, I've read certain books where people talk about, like seeing somebody like Danielle, who is an LFMT, like monthly, right? And I say this to people, and they're like, why do I have to pay money to see somebody when I don't have a problem yet? Like, So yeah. So you guys speak, go in whatever direction as we wrap this up here. Our time is over. Yeah. Healing therapy, what's not? Should we come to see you, basically, Danielle, is what I'm saying. Should we make it a part of our lives as we go to the dentist to get our teeth clean every 6 months and all of that stuff? Should this be like a part of our lives that we actually invest and pay attention to?
So I think that we are emotional beings. We have we're mental, we're physical, we're all these components. You have to take care of yourself in all the areas, right? And so I do think it's important, but it's only important if you see it as important. The biggest, um, what is the word? The biggest uh, component of like a healthy therapeutic dynamic is rapport. Like more than even like sometimes education, like if you have a connection with
Yeah.
your client, it really makes a huge difference. So if the client is not interested, it's probably not going to work for them because they're not
Mm.
interested. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
that's why I'm like, come if you feel like you are ready to really work on things. Okay, I do think it's important in that there are so like we have to take care of our physical health. Why shouldn't we take care of our mental health? Why shouldn't we take care of our emotional health? If we these are things that are like we need to take care of. So I do think it needs to be regarded on that level. Do I think people need to go to therapy for months, years? No, I do not think that. um do I think that everybody has to go? No, I actually don't think that, which is interesting. I know a lot of people are like, that's like a something that's buzzing around.
Mm.
Everybody needs to be in therapy. I don't know that I actually believe in that. And this comes from a therapist. I don't know I believe in that. I think that you should come if you're ready to be challenged and learn and grow. I think if you have any sort of trauma, yes, you should 100% be in therapy. Um, and if you just need support around even your relationships, your connections, these are all reasons to come to a therapist and get clarification because a lot of it has to do with you and your perception of yourself. And there are some things that you need to unlearn. Something that I really like to practice in therapy is narrative therapy. Like that's one of the modalities I use. And narrative therapy is this sense of like we have all these stories, these things that have been written over us. What if we rewrite them? What if we restory them? What if we externalize some of these messages that we've been given or they've been spoken over us indirectly or directly? And I think a lot of us are functioning with these perceptions that are not healthy and are not bringing us what we want. And so I do think some of that needs to be changed. And so if you want to grow in that way and really start working on some things that maybe you haven't given attention to, yes, I think a therapist is a perfect place to a therapist is a perfect person to see and a place for you to be so that you can grow and get that understanding and take that into your relationships. So yeah, that's why I think it's important. But you should be there if you think it's important.
Okay. I think that's very important. Yeah. All right. Eunice, what do you have to say? Add healing therapy. I mean, Danielle said if you have trauma, I mean, how some people don't even know that they have trauma. So,
Mhm.
Yes, yes. So
so
some people don't know that they have trauma. Usually, I would advocate that, you know what, it's just like walking into a hospital and saying that let me do a thorough check to see what's wrong. If everything is okay, just walk in, just have a conversation. It can be a normal conversation. Usually when we have normal conversations, we realize that, oh, there are things. I remember that I think last year I went for a youth camp. I've shared this like before. I went for a youth camp and they introduced, oh, there's a psychologist here. So you can talk to the psychologist about anything. So there was a queue. So the first person came, we started talking. So we did the normal introduction. I said, why are you here? What do you want to talk to me about? Nothing. I thought that you asked me questions. So I said, Holy Spirit, help me. And we started the conversation because I wasn't used to the fact that I have to now fish out exactly what is wrong. So we started having conversations. Now, when we started, before she left, she was crying because I touched on issues that she didn't even know existed. The second person came, left crying. Um, they left like they were emotional because there are things that came up that they didn't even know. The third person was the same. And it
Okay. Oh no. Okay.
I know, right? As we're wrapping up, look at that.
Okay, you're right.
sorry, I'm back. I'm
We're
back.
back. That's
Okay,
good.
so the third person also came. It was the same emotional response, and I realized, no, people actually have issues that they don't even know exist. So therapy is just maybe a safe space that you could get where your emotions, your feelings will be explored. See, crisis or challenges in life are things that we are not immune to. They would come no matter what. We need to develop some maybe coping strategies or emotional regulation that when it happens, we are adequately prepared for this. Now, this is the space where we can develop these skills. Now, we need to be resilient so that when we are hit with life challenges, we can thrive, we can stand. Now, this is the place where these skills will be built. Before I started my course, one of the things that we were told was that each of us had to go through therapy. We had to go for counseling. Now, I wondered, I've come to learn in school. Why should I go through counseling? One thing that we're told was that sometimes you don't know that you have unresolved issues that need to be resolved. Because how do you provide healing to people when you yourself you're wounded?
Mhm.
Okay, so I would advocate. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you have a problem that is so huge, but reach out. You get a safe space where you can talk. Sometimes I had a client who would just come for us to gist about school, and it was okay for her. She comes, she leaves laughing. Sometimes she'll call, I have a problem. I just go there, we just talk for an hour. She gets a place where she can laugh, and it was enough healing for her. So I would advocate you just go in there, talk, laugh. Just get that safe space where nobody's judging, where it feels that time is standing still, where you could be yourself, say whatever where we are not using any moral lens, where nobody's looking at, did you do this right or wrong? Where you feel free to be yourself, and that would be enough. And trust me, it is a very good feeling. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you guys so very much. Thank you for spending these 2 hours with me. Um, yeah, it's been great. I've learned a lot. And I hope that anybody who joins us has also learned a whole lot. Um, how can we contact you guys? I guess if we need to contact you. Danielle, do you do like online bookings and stuff like that?
Yes, 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 yes. I have my practice is called Well Rooted Therapy. So I have a website, wellrootedtherapyco.com. I have an online form there that people can fill out, but I'm only licensed in Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, Florida, and Delaware.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if somebody's not in any of those states, you can't help us.
No, unfortunately, no.
You sound even unprofessional. I'm just kidding. Unprofessionally help us. All right, Eunice. So can we contact you? Can we slide into your DM and get therapy? I mean, unprofessionally. Like, I'm just
Oh,
curious.
oh,
Somebody needs to reach
okay,
out.
for me in Ghana, I'm licensed in Ghana, so definitely you could reach out to me. Usually when you reach out, do my assessment to see if I need to refer you or I need to take the case, so I'll do that. So you can slide into my DM, whatever the case, feel free to reach out to me. And let's pick it
Please,
up from there.
please slide into her DM. She's single too, so be sliding into her DM. All right. Thank you guys so very much. For today, I have been educated, I have been enlightened, and I've had a good time. So God bless you so very much. Thank you, Danielle Amoako. Thank you, Eunice Penford Crane, for coming. Let me say a quick prayer so we can zoom out of here. Father, we thank you. I thank you for these beautiful, wonderful ladies that, Lord, you have filled with so much of your love to help us and to direct us, even as we continue to live on this earth. Thank you for the healing powers that you've given to them through their studies to heal us, help us with our souls, our minds. And I give you praise. I pray that you bless the work of their hands, and that these words, oh Lord, will help us, all of us who have listened and who will listen. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you,
Amen.
ladies. Bye. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. It's been a pleasure, and I hope to see you maybe sometime soon. Maybe you can just pick up one thing and look at it.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much. Bye.